Took him into custody. Did he say anything in that moment? Was he?
Yeah. What was his reaction? I was able to get to the scene shortly after the stop, and I saw him in the car. His facial affect was very bland. He was not emoting any emotions at all. He made no statements, and of course, right at first, we didn't know 100%. We knew we had the vehicle, but what we didn't know is did the witness have it right and pick out the right vehicle. But as I watched him and realized he was not asking any questions, like what's going on? There's cops everywhere. There's men with rifles. There's a helicopter. I-95 is shut down. Why no questions? And I looked at him. I thought, yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy they're looking for. And sure enough, it was.
There was a witness flown here. Can you tell us about that?
There was a witness
Flown by aircraft, the helicopter.
Yeah, the witness from the incident at Trump International was flown to the scene by the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and he was able to make a positive ID. So of course, then we knew we had the right suspect.
And he was not armed when you took him into custody?
He was not armed when we got him out of the car. We didn't search the car. We waited till the FBI got there, and then we used our flatbed. Traffic was horrible out there, you can imagine. We had our flatbed sheriff's office wrecker, put the vehicle up and take it down to wherever they wanted it in Palm Beach County.
Sheriff, you guys have repeatedly touted that the South Florida Task Force operates on communication between counties. This was the biggest test of that communication. Kind of talk about how that led up to this.
Well, preparation is always the key. We have worked so closely with Sheriff Bradshaw and his people over the years. We have a task force. We're all together. So it was really a seamless handoff of the information. And that was critical. They knew the vehicle they were looking for. Had they not gotten it to us quickly, we would have missed that car. And had we not had all the experience we have, because we invariably are stopping high-profile felony cars coming out of Palm Beach, coming out of Broward County. We're used to that. This is nothing new to us. And so the preparation, the large trucks, the takedown mannerisms that we use really worked out, because had that subject had the opportunity to chase, had we just turned on blue lights and he would have taken off, we would have had to pin him and crash him on I-95. Well, I'll say this. It was probably the highest profile stop this sheriff's office has ever made. We were stopping the man who was involved in an assassination attempt on the highest profile target on the planet. And I am thankful to the men and women in this sheriff's office that put that.
And I got to say, myself, hats off. It was a great job. And they did it in such good timing. The timing was incredible. They made it, it's an incredible thing. You're an idiot.
Themselves in harm's way and apprehended that suspect without incident.
Talk about the delicacies of not escalating this situation into a high-speed chase, because he could recognize that there's people following him and turn it into that.
Yeah, good question. The technicalities that went into not getting this elevated into a high-speed chase. Once we saw that vehicle and got the tag, we were locked on. We had a green light. There was no backing down at that point. There's nothing he could have done.
It's true.
That would have shaken us loose. He could have fired at us. He could have driven that car as fast as it went. There was no way we would have pulled off that chase because of the high-profile nature of what he had done. So the fact that our troops out there, the men and women on the street, knew, don't get in there and turn on blue lights and play Dukes of Hazzard. Slowly move our cars into place, wait until we have adequate resources, and then don't give them a chance to run, just get them. And that's exactly what we did. It just works out. We have a lot of practice, our tagline, #Raw County, and it worked.
Sheriff, can you speak to the bravery of
using hashtags? I love this day and age.
Yeah, that's a good question. The uncertainties of the stop. I think in this case, they knew it. I'm real proud of them. We've released body worn camera to you all first, our local people, and you should have that coming across. You're going to see a textbook case of a traffic stop of a felon, a known felon. And look, I say it all the time. I don't deserve any credit. I'm standing up here because I'm the sheriff. I was home having a cup of coffee after church. And I did get out to the scene, but I wasn't right there. They deserve the credit. They took the chance. They saw the car. They approached it. They got it stopped. And there's no force on earth that could have stopped them.
And I got to say again, it was, I think, 6 hours after the incident, maybe 5.5 hours after the incident happened that I actually heard about it. And all this had already taken place. Like, he was already in custody at that point. And the amazing turn of events that actually happened to get him in custody is an amazing feat itself. Having an eyewitness, step in and pretty much give him the information they needed to send out and just stop him in his tracks. Very impressive work, man. And luck was on their side. And I'm sorry, this goes out to every other would-be assassin. I'm not saying they're getting smarter. I'm just saying y'all are getting dumber.
From getting him.
Sit in this situation, it's all about communication. Did you guys communicate with St. Lucie County and then maybe even Indian River County saying, hey, this person's headed north,
Oh, yeah.
be ready, be on standby?
Yeah, the question is, were we all engaged? Yeah, everybody on the Treasure Coast was engaged, but we don't let them get through Martin County.
A good video starts with a good song. Go to Artlist and get the best music for your video.
That's the song.
Keep your creativity flowing with amazing new music every day. Browse the best music catalog in the world. Find the music you need fast and focus on your creation. One simple license to cover all your projects. So go to Artlist now and find the perfect song for your video.
Over 1 million creators and brands are growing faster, engaging better, and selling more with ManyChat. What about you? Instantly reply to every comment, DM, and story mention. Or let people comment a keyword to automatically receive personalized messages.
Engagement, the algorithm absolutely loves it.
Watch how your post gets shown to more and more people, building up your follower count like
Will, my opinion, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
How many, you mentioned, or how many sheriff's deputies' vehicles were kind of behind him or involved in the stop, I suppose?
Will's question, how many people, how many of our deputies were behind him? We had every available unit in the Martin County Sheriff's Office headed that way. Obviously, we didn't pull them in from Indiantown. We would have had a South County unit down in Tequesta that wasn't there. But we had detectives, we had SWAT guys that came from home. I think at the end of the day, we probably had 30 units either there or heading there before it was over.
And you regarding the actual stop itself, you mentioned the big pickup trucks. This gentleman was not pulled over using stop sticks or the pit maneuver, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Will's question is, did we use a pit maneuver or did we use stop sticks? The answer is no. We've got these big heavy duty F-250s with the bumpers, and we just surround the vehicle and then force it to a stop, pushed it, kind of maneuvered it off the interstate. Remember, we have two concerns. Our primary concern, no matter what happens, is the safety of the motoring public. We don't want to create a situation where we're in a high-speed chase or a shootout, and there's innocent people. That's always our first our concern. And so, with that concern in mind, we followed our procedure, and that is get the car to stop. Don't give it a chance to run. And the onus is on the driver. And if he had not stopped, it would have been a mess out there.
I guess Sheriff Bradshaw, I believe, I may be correct, I believe he mentioned license plate readers, and that's kind of how they determined that this guy was going north on 95. Did that play into did you guys use this license plate reader technology as well to kind of get a leg up, or?
Yeah, Will's question is, did we use license plate technology? My practice is never to mention methodologies or resources, but we didn't have to in this case because Palm Beach County had already told us what to look for, and that's all we needed. They gave us the vehicle description, they gave us the tag, so we were on it. And think about this: it's weekend traffic on 95. I mean, I just thank God we found that car, and we're able to give. I think we're able to give former President Trump a peace of mind. He's already invited the men and women that were involved in the stop to go to Mar-a-Lago and be thankful for what they did.
Oh, Trump extended that invitation.
They did.
What, do you know roughly where the deputy sort of spotted the vehicle? Was it like Bridge Road, south of Bridge Road, north of Bridge Road, or?
Yeah, we originally picked the vehicle up somewhere around the Palm City exit, so that would be 714, and it took us about 2 miles to get all the resources in play so we could surround that vehicle and force it to a stop.
How was he driving when your deputy saw him?
How was he driving when we saw him? He was smart. He was just driving with the flow of traffic. Yeah, I think that he may have thought he got away with it. Of course, he could have known that there was a witness who really did the right thing, took a picture of him, took a picture of the tag. And he was just going to drive himself back to wherever he came from.
Did he have any, to your knowledge, any ties to Martin County or the Treasure Coast?
Yeah, to my knowledge, does he have any ties to Martin County? I think the answer, to my knowledge, the answer is no, I have no knowledge. I think what we're finding out, he's not from this area, which of course raises the bigger question is, how does a guy from not here get all the way to Trump International, realize that the president, former president of the United States, is golfing and is able to get a rifle in that vicinity? I think that's the question the FBI, Secret Service are laser focused on today. Is this guy part of a conspiracy? Is he a lone gunman? If he's a lone gunman, President Trump is that much safer because we have him. But if he's part of a conspiracy, then this whole thing.
I'm sorry, he's not a lone gunman. This is part of a war happening on social media. This is not just something. It's not a whim. Okay, it's happened twice in 2 months. So I really do think we've got to pay more attention to the fact at hand. The fact at hand is he's actively trying to get killed. And I'm sorry, for a man with Trump's money, he's got to step up and get his security. I'm sure we're going to see big differences after yesterday.
Really takes on a very ominous tone.
And Sheriff, you mentioned the witness a few seconds ago. When it comes to that witness, you guys always, when it comes to cases, saying, please let us know if you see this. Please let us know if you see this. That one witness made possible what you guys did.
Yeah, that's good. Just your comment and question. Did the one witness make it all possible? The answer is unequivocally yes. Just think a minute. Let's say he got down there, attempt assassination, nobody sees him, he gets away. Actually, he would have gotten away, but a civilian saw him. And they'd still be looking for him now. They'd first be doing fingerprints, all the things that we do, find them. So, yeah, that witness deserves a lot of credit.
Sheriff, what's going through your mind at this time? As you said, this is probably the most high-profile situation in Orange County. Maybe it's history with this suspect. As sheriff, what's going through your mind saying, hey, this is actually happening in our county right now?
Well, what's going through my mind as sheriff as we made this stop is that this is a once-in-a-career, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. I mean, how many people get a shot off at the former president of the United States? I mean, the poor guy's already been shot once. And then for that suspect to come into this county, I already had somebody asking me, does it feel like the Lee Harvey Oswald, and Jack Ruby, a situation where the Dallas police and that they catch the assassin in that case of John F. Kennedy. So I feel like, yeah, without being hyperbolic, there's just a touch of history. And but the credit, again, I just have to stress it, the credit goes to those road patrol officers who made the stop and took the chance.
Agreed.
Do you know where exactly on 95 this? Just a better sense of where things ended, I suppose.
Yeah, where did things actually end? So we picked the car up at about the 110 mile marker. 2 miles later, northbound, by which time we've shut down all northbound traffic. We've got units lined on 95, slow everybody down. And within 2 miles of the 110, so right about the 112, we're able to make the stop and neutralize the subject.
You have video of it?
Yeah,
Of course they have video.
yeah, body camera.
Don't tell when he's pulling over.
You know, I'm not sure that we do.
After the trial,
Unless there was a traffic unit, we don't have dash.
I don't know if you guys know this, but after the trial, that is completely public domain. So once the trial's finished, we're going to be able to see all that and how intensely happy those police officers were to make their arrest successfully, legally, properly. It's going to be an amazing video. It's going to be some good material. I can't wait for it to come out. Personally.
Now, of course, we have body warrants. Only the traffic units have the dash cameras for the DUIs. I don't know that we actually have the video of the stop. Other than the body cameras, we're all activated, but you've seen it invariably. You get a picture of the steering wheel, you know, the cop.
We're going to see the body cams. Don't worry, guys.
Did you guys have your helicopter? It got sort of involved in this?
Our helicopter never had to go airborne. PBSO helicopter was right overhead, right away. I'd like to shout out to St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. Sent a bomb disposal dog. We were able to sweep that car, make sure it was safe. Everybody played a hand. Yes, we caught him, but everybody. This was a team effort.
You said bomb disposal dog was sent by the St. Lucie SO?
Yes.
Not like their kind of big truck, the bomb disposal
No,
truck.
the dog, the bomb sniffing canine dog.
Okay.
Y'all, thank you very much. I've been in front of TMZ. Special edition, Fox News. You all are the most important. I want to make sure you got your questions answered.
Okay, that's great.
We are joined now by NBC News national law enforcement.
¿Quieres un trabajo a distancia que te guste y bien pagado? ¿Qué harías si te dijera que lo puedes conseguir con
press conference you can see here where we are hoping to hear more details about this, and of course we'll bring that to you live when it happens right here.
Okay, we've seen that one multiple times. Pardon me. 19 hours ago. There was a video I saw 17 hours ago, 15 hours ago. No. Is this the one here? Would-be assassin? Maybe
Joined
this is
now
it.
by NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter. Tom, good morning. Tell us what you know about the suspect now and any possible motive.
Good morning, Hoda. That's the big question, the possible motive. We do know some details about this individual, Ryan Wesley Roos, past, and he has ties to North Carolina and to Hawaii. He has an extensive criminal history, something that'll definitely be a focus for investigators. He is expected to be charged perhaps as soon as today federally.
I'm not smiling for any weird reason. I'm smiling because they used all three of his names. Just like any other assassin or a serial killer, you know, John Wayne Gacy, John Wilkes Booth, any assassin or any serial killer, they always use the three names because they're not just in trouble, man. They're in big trouble. They're grounded.
And that'll be filed in federal court out of Miami. The big key going forward here is trying to determine what got him to this point. He had posted on social media previously that he had voted, he says, for Donald Trump in 2016, but at some point changed views on Trump. He had traveled to Ukraine in 2022 and expressed strong support for Ukraine in their fight against Russia and their unprovoked invasion of Ukraine.
Tom, is this a kind of a lone wolf situation that investigators are looking at, or do they think others might be involved?
There's no sign at this point, Hoda, that there's any sort of accomplice or somebody that was with him yesterday or traveling with him or helping him out. But the big question, I mentioned that extensive criminal history. looking at that, should he have been able to purchase this gun? Because it might appear that would be illegal. If so, did somebody sell it to him illegally, or did he ask somebody to buy it for him? That could potentially yield charges for that individual or individuals. It's just too soon to say. That's what they're looking at. Big picture here, looking a week away and less than a mile away from where we're standing here in 1A, the security picture for the Secret Service going forward, it's this exact type of individual that they're so concerned about. And really, how does this election look going forward as these candidates crisscross the country? What will they need to do with their rallies or even on their own personal time, as we saw yesterday, to keep them safe?
All right, Tom Winter. Tom, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every week.
Like I said, guys, this is going to be your last election. Like, you know, they're going to hire the powers that be are going to say, hey, look, we've been controlling your planet for long enough. We're not about to put another human being at risk here. So we're going to hire somebody ourselves, or they're just going to let AI do the fucking job for them. This is the last election. I don't care what y'all say. It is really comical what's happening today. Okay, let's go down a little farther and see if we can't find something more recent. Let's go to filters. We're going to go to the last hour. Okay, here's some opinions.
Former President Trump is safe today after a second assassination attempt here at Trump International Golf Course. Now, as you can see, this is still a very active crime scene. I do want to point out the shrubbery that lines this golf course. Law enforcement say a gunman made his way through it. Secret Service saw a rifle pointed out of a chain link fence along the golf course, and that's when shots were fired. Former President Trump was on one hole behind Secret Service when this happened. Trump was taken to safety away in a golf cart quickly. The man has been identified as 58-year-old Ryan Routh from Hawaii. A witness saw him jump out of the bushes and get into a black Nissan. Police were able to pull him over on I-95.
Okay, honey, that's the story.
There's 3 cities that you need to study.
Former President.
All right. Let's go to more. There we go.
Haz el súper en Mercado Libre con descuentos.
This one's only 50 seconds, but it's 30 charges. Ryan Ruth, possession of firearm, convicted of possession of firearm. Okay, yeah, appeared in federal court Monday to hear his charges. Okay. Suspected 30, 50 yards. Where's this Palm Beach County Sheriff? Okay, we all know this information. Yeah, I-95, got it. Okay, so this is just a briefing. We want to know more about him himself. Let's see what we can find.
Good morning, North America. Good afternoon, Europe, and good evening to everyone watching.
Gunman was spotted within shooting distance of Trump one more time. Authorities say that Trump does not have the same level of security as the sitting president, and the Secret Service already provides adequate protection.
But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
US President Joe Biden has condemned the incident and said there is no place for political violence in the country. There are many questions that will need to be answered in the coming days as the FBI investigates the case. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV.
All right, we're getting a better picture this morning on the suspect behind the Trump shooting. The suspect, Ryan Routh, has been identified as someone who has been quite vocal about his support for Ukraine and extremely critical of former President Donald Trump. Now, Routh reportedly supported Trump in 2016, but then changed his mind. NDTV's Parmeshwar Bawa has those details.
This 58-year-old former construction worker has reportedly been identified as the man arrested for allegedly pointing an AK-47 at former U.S. President Donald Trump while he was golfing.
In the bushes where this guy was is an AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
But his history with violence is not new. In 2002, he was arrested for barricading himself inside a building with an automatic weapon. The charges were severe, but the case's resolution remains murky. The New York Times reports that on Signal, Ryan Ruth declared in his profile bio, civilians must change this war and prevent future wars. His WhatsApp bio further stated, each one of us must do our part daily in the smallest steps to support human rights, freedom and democracy. We must aid the Chinese. In 2020, meanwhile, Ryan posted on X about his admiration for Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democratic presidential candidate at the time, praising her ability to work tirelessly on peace deals in Syria, Afghanistan, and other conflict areas. Also in a May 2020 post, he invited North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to Hawaii for a vacation and offered to be the ambassador to help settle conflicts between their countries. Ryan's commitment, though, extended beyond online rhetoric. In a 2023 interview with the New York Times, he revealed that he traveled to Ukraine to back the war effort and recruit Afghan soldiers. Republicans and Democrats alike responded to the incident by roundly condemning political violence. Experts argue that given the national epidemic of gun violence in the United States, these kind of attacks are perhaps another inevitable new normal, but for now, it is still shocking. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV World.
Your videos are not good because you are missing this one simple step. It is no coincidence that so many creators are
Reacting to the incident, billionaire Elon Musk took to his social media platform X. He questioned, why is no one trying to assassinate President Joe Biden and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris? He later deleted the post. Meanwhile, Biden...
That's so something Trump would say. Why is nobody trying to assassinate him? Like, that's weird.
And Harris were briefed on the shooting, and each issued a statement condemning political violence. Now, Kamala Harris said she was deeply disturbed by the day's events and, quote, said, we all must do our part to ensure that this incident does not lead to any more violence, unquote. Now, let's take a closer look at the apparent second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We're joined by Tiffany Watkins Ahan, and Tiffany, who has worked in the White House during the first term of President George W. Bush, along with being a part of the Bush-Cheney re-election campaign. Also with us this morning, Richard Painter, professor at the University of Minnesota Law School and former White House chief ethics lawyer. Tiffany, let me come to you first. Second time in a little over 2 months. Second attempt on Donald Trump's life. What concerns you most about this repeat scenario?
Well, what concerns me most is that, the level of violence around this election and around President Trump, former President Trump's life is a bit unsettling. And also, what also concerns me is, how much the Secret Service is actually prepared to handle these types of scenarios and attempts. Look, they seem to be doing a great job, as good a job as they can to make sure that the former president is protected. But I know this is a bit unprecedented, and perhaps they need more resources.
Choice of phrase there, baby.
All right, Tiffany, now, Richard, it's really disturbing we're seeing this again. I really want to know what needs to be done. The Palm Beach County Sheriff went on record saying that Trump does not receive the same level of protection that a sitting president does. So if this were Joe Biden, the security protocol would have been very different. The entire golf course we're hearing would have been covered. Given what we've seen twice now, and that we're in such a polarizing election cycle, what do you think should change with regards to Trump's security detail?
I believe the security should be substantially increased for former President Trump and also for Vice President Harris. We simply cannot tolerate violence, political violence in a democracy. The United States is the second largest democracy in the world after India. Both countries have experienced in their history political violence. The United States went through a period in the 1960s where President Kennedy and his brother Bobby Kennedy were killed, and Bobby Kennedy was killed when he was a candidate about to win the Democratic nomination in 1968. We also had the assassination of Martin Luther King. We had attempts on the lives of Gerald Ford, President Ronald Reagan, and that former President Trump. This cannot be tolerated. We need to increase the security, the Secret Service protection of former President Trump, Vice President Harris. We have to have elections decided at the ballot box, not with an AK-47.
Tiffany, what do you think? Is it as simple as getting the Secret Service to up the security detail? Because there are always complaints about how there's limited staffing, and this is not as easy as it may sound.
Yeah, I think for the Secret Service, there's a couple things that I know the request for upping staffing seems like a logical one, but they need they probably need additional funding from Congress to make sure that occurs. And I know there's a bipartisan task force kind of reviewing former President Trump's first assassination attempt. And this bipartisan task force can recommend funds that can go towards the Secret Service to help them, bolster their staff and to get more resources.
All right, Richard, there was much anger over how the Secret Service handled the first shooting. We saw Director Kim Chiefley resign. She's been replaced by the acting director. Now, one Democratic senator has said that people will actually be shocked and appalled when lawmakers release that report that Tiffany was just talking about of the first attempted assassination. But are we likely going to see any heads roll this time around? It's kind of rather tricky because the top brass, so to speak, has already been axed, so to speak, or stepped aside.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen politically here, but it's shocking to me that an assassin could get in the bushes right next to the Trump golf course. I live across the street from the golf course. And I can assure you that if the president of the United States, former president, or a candidate for president were playing golf there would be someone on that road making sure.
That's why I think that this guy was sitting there, camped there for nights.
That nobody get into the bushes near the golf course. That's just such an obvious tactic that could be used by an assassin. And furthermore, there's a golf course owned by the former president of the United States. So I don't know why that road wasn't being watched, and that man should have been arrested as soon as he tried to enter the bushes, rather than be fired on when he's pointing a rifle out of through the fence. The United States spends $900 billion about on our defense budget, almost $1 trillion. I would think we could spend on our Secret Service enough money to protect our democracy from assassins. Once again, a democracy must choose its candidates at the ballot box. And we cannot allow this, and we need to spend whatever it takes to protect our presidential candidates as well as our presidents.
Let's talk about the political fallout. Now, Tiffany, the first time this happened, we heard how Trump was supposedly a changed man. Many will argue he really did not change. But how much of what we've seen is going to play into voter sentiment is what I'm wondering, especially because early voter ballots are already out. Absentee ballots are.
Do you want your videos to look like this? Well, in just 14 days, we've taught all these people how to do it. Our
now officially available in Alabama, September 19th, and a few days from now, are supposed to be available in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, actually, Alistair, how the voter sentiment will be impacted by the second assassination attempt on former President Trump's life. It will remain to be seen. However, voters will be sympathetic to this second attempt, and whether that impacts the way they vote, that's a probably question that remains to be seen. But in general, when these types of attempts happen, voters tend to sympathize with the person that was actually attacked. So, or attempted to be attacked. So, I think there could be a bit of a sway towards President Trump, but again, it remains to be seen if that is the case.
That was a mouthful.
Richard, Republicans are already blaming Democrats for the apparent second assassination attempt. For instance, they're saying Trump, they're pointing to Republicans, Democrats saying that Trump will be the next dictator. They're saying that this kind of rhetoric really has to stop. Now, they're saying that it's not surprising that we have this kind of shooting on Trump. So how do you think the Democrats have to play?
Leave it up to a fucking Brit to bring that shit up. Like, how in any way, shape, or form is this a fucking dictatorship? Pardon my language.
Their cards, because they really have to tiptoe carefully on this one.
Well, in democracies, you do have vigorous political debate and rhetoric that is sometimes very aggressive. And Donald Trump himself has talked about putting Democrats in prison if he's elected president of the United States. And he has made up stories about Haitian people eating dogs and cats in the middle of Ohio. So yes, that's going to draw a strong response. And that has absolutely nothing to do with violence of crazy people who get a gun. Nobody would justify political violence. There's no excuse for it anywhere. And we absolutely need to spend more on the Secret Service. And there, yes, I fault the Biden administration for not requesting additional funds for the Secret Service. But the idea that, you can't criticize Donald Trump for his conduct in office and for his words because it might inspire some crazy person. I mean, that just makes absolutely no sense. We need to protect our candidates, protect our democracy. And one of the threats to our democracy is from assassins. And the other is from candidates who say that if they gain political office, they're going to put their enemies in prison. And who engage in other inflammatory rhetoric, and that does need to
Okay,
be
Tiffany, we have just a few minutes left, actually just about 30 seconds. On the flip side,
they cut him off when he's the one making sense. Pardon me, guys, pardon me.
Tiffany, this is for you. How much of the onus is on the Republicans to tone down their divisive rallying cries? Like we just heard Richard there talking about, immigrants eating dogs and other inflammatory remarks.
I do think the Republicans should, choose their words carefully.
I think so too. If you want to talk about people eating dogs, then why don't you change the law to dogs are actually, they have human life. Okay, let me put a scenario in front of you. If I go to my neighbor's house and put a bullet in that dog's skull, I will go to jail for discharging a weapon in public.
As they say, having inflammatory rhetoric serves no good purpose when you're trying to, regain control of Congress and the presidency. I think it's really important and incumbent on Republicans to talk about the issues that affect the American people every day, and those issues, that rhetoric is not helpful to that message.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate your time this morning. In other news now, the FBI is investigating shooting threats sent to Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio. This follows baseless conspiracy theories about Haitian immigrants eating pets. We were just talking about that in our discussion there. The unfounded claims that spread on social media have led to security threats and prompted multiple school evacuations in the city after they were amplified by former President Donald Trump and his 2024 running mate, J.D. Vance, despite local officials saying there are no credible reports of migrants eating pets.
What? We can rewind that 1,000 times and he'll say the same fucking thing. All three of those statements were absolutely contradictory to one another and horseshit. That was hilarious. What type of source is this? NDTV. What an absolute pile of shite. Pardon my French. I want to watch a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to be a lot more. Let's just try it.
Let's now turn to an exclusive interview with Democratic Congressman Ami Bera. NDTV spoke to Bera earlier before Sunday's potential assassination on Donald Trump. We asked Bera about the role of Indian Americans in this year's election. Bera also told us about what Indian food he'd like to cook for Kamala Harris. Here's more on that and other things we talked about. Now, in the recent debate, Congressman Bera, with the recent debate with Vice President Harris, Trump said that she is Biden. That's a view held by many voters who see Kamala Harris as just an extension of the Biden administration. There are those who say that for nearly 4 long years, she had.
At this point, if I have any newcomers coming to the channel right now, I want to let you know this is absolutely for material. I do not believe these point of views.
A chance to reach out to the middle class, fix higher prices, tackle the economy, manage illegal border crossings. So that didn't happen. They just don't buy this.
So I think we can be proud of what the Biden administration's been able to accomplish, getting us out of the pandemic, rebuilding America's infrastructure, some of the legislation that we've passed. But at the end of the day, the president is the president and the vice president is the vice president. So it really is the Biden administration. Kamala Harris, and I've known her for a long time, as district attorney in San Francisco, as attorney general in California, as a senator from California. She also has her own priorities and agendas. And again, I think she's starting to lay some of that out. So it also is a new.
Okay, they're going way off topic here. We're concentrating on the election, not the election, on the actual assassination. Trump assassinated Biden, Ukraine. Okay, this is 33 minutes ago. It was released, and it's already got 500,000 views. Let's see what this channel has to say. WION. Let's go.
Attack. Why did he want to shoot the former president?
Let's go to the beginning.
If you have been following the news today, you must have heard about how Donald Trump evaded another assassination attempt. But what do we know about the man who dared to undertake such an attack? Why did he want to shoot the former president? Here's what is known so far. Ryan Wesley Routh, the 58-year-old man who was arrested on Sunday for an attempted assassination on Trump, had allegedly expressed the desire to fight and die in Ukraine. It turns out Ryan Routh was one of thousands of foreign volunteers in Ukraine after the Russia-Ukraine war started in February 2022. In fact, reports say that he even reached the Polish border town of Medyka, where he turned up at the office of the Ukrainian International Legion, only to be rejected. And after his rejection by the Ukrainian forces, he reportedly went to Kiev, where he tried to coordinate volunteers by pitching a tent on the capital's Maidan Square. His views and political activity are now being examined for clues as to the possible motivation behind the attack on the US presidential candidate. The focus is currently on his activity online. His post on the platform X, formerly Twitter, revealed a penchant for violent rhetoric. In the early weeks of the Russia-Ukraine war, he wrote on X, and I'm quoting, "I'm willing to fly to Krakow and go to the border of Ukraine to volunteer and fight and die."
Volunteer.
A former contractor from Greensboro, North Carolina, he was interviewed by the New York Times in 2023 for an article about Americans volunteering to aid the war effort in Ukraine. Routh, who had zero military experience, said he had traveled to Ukraine. He said he wanted to recruit Afghan soldiers to fight there. He said he had planned to move them from Pakistan and Iran to Ukraine. It's not clear whether he followed through. But wait, there is more here. On the messaging application Signal, Routh's profile, bio, read,
that sounds a lot like she's reading a script from ChatGPT, just FYI.
Quoting, "Civilians must change this war and prevent future wars." On WhatsApp, his bio read, "Each one of us must do our part daily in the smallest steps, help support human rights, freedom, and democracy. We each must help the Chinese," quote unquote. What's more, in a video interview posted by Newsweek Romania in June 2022, he aimed to help recruit foreign fighters to Kiev's cause.
My initial goal was to come fight. I think, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army.
In total, 3 social media accounts bearing his name suggest he was an avid supporter of Ukraine. Still, the question remains, why Trump? And what exactly did Routh hope to achieve? Could his social media provide some clues? In a post on X on the 22nd of April, he slammed Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. He said, and I'm quoting, "Democracy is on the ballot and we cannot afford to lose." A similar slogan has been commonly used by President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Routh, in his social media post, urged President Biden, when he was running for re-election, to center his campaign on preserving America's democracy and freedom. He also accused Trump of seeking to, quote-unquote, enslave Americans under a master. The 58-year-old was reportedly a supporter of both Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley in the upcoming elections. That's before they decided to drop out of the race. When he was arrested, authorities recovered an AK-47 style assault rifle, a scope, 2 backpacks, and a GoPro device at the scene. Officials stated that the gunman was approximately 300 to 500 yards away from Trump at the time of the incident. Shockingly, the incident came just 2 months after an earlier assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. The former president, remember, was shot in the ear during that campaign rally. Responding to the story, Russia seemed to imply there was a link between the assassination attempt and...
Just for a second, I'm gonna full screen that and keep it that way. But he should have upped his own security. Okay, that's all I'm going to say for now.
America's support for Ukraine. The Kremlin, in fact, said that the Ukrainian links of the alleged shooter showed that playing with fire had consequences. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, said, and I'm quoting, "It's not the U.S. who should be thinking. It is the U.S. intelligence services who should be thinking. In any case, playing with fire has its consequences." The comment was a clear reference to America's support of Ukraine. What was Ukraine's response, you're asking? Well, Kiev on Monday denied links to the man. Ukrainian officials said they had nothing to do with him and instead accused Moscow of seizing on the opportunity for propaganda. With just over 7 weeks to go for the US election, the second attempt on Donald Trump's life highlights the challenge of keeping the presidential candidate safe in a rather tense campaign. Trump's election opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, said on the platform X, "Violence has no place in America." Meanwhile, President Biden directed his team to ensure the Secret Service has the resources that it needs to ensure Trump's safety. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Meet Matterport, the market-leading 3D platform that lets anyone turn a physical space into an immersive digital twin. Homes, offices, factories, shops, museums, schools.
Okay, so.
Zach, why did he?
All right, we begin this final hour of Fox and Friends with that news alert. Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe will meet with law enforcement and members of the Secret Service in West Palm Beach today after former President Trump was...
Okay, this is 3 hours ago. It was released. We're going to give it a try. No guarantees, y'all. Just stick with me.
Targeted in a second assassination attempt while playing golf on his course in Mar-a-Lago, Florida yesterday. That, according to a Secret Service official.
The suspect is now apparently in custody after fleeing the scene
where he left behind an AK-47 style rifle, a GoPro camera, and 2 what appear to be backpacks or bags. The local sheriff's office says the suspect was between 300 and 500 yards from the former president. And we're learning more about his prior run-ins with police and some of the things he said online, which were political.
Yep, we have live team coverage this morning. We have Brooke Singman has the suspect's wild past and run-ins with law enforcement. But first, let's go to Dana Marie Nickel, who joins us outside of Trump International Golf Club to walk us through exactly what happened. Good morning, Dana Marie.
Good morning, guys. This is still a very active investigation. Crime scene still remains around the perimeter of the golf course. Many of those roads still closed to the public. Now, we're about 12 to 15 minutes from Mar-a-Lago, where former President Donald Trump lives. And we know golf is something that he loves to do on Sunday. We heard from him on social media, praising Secret Service and local law enforcement for keeping him safe, speaking out about this. Now, another important aspect of this is the map. So you can see how close these golf course holes are to the public street here in West Palm Beach. Palm Beach County Sheriff said Ryan Routh was only about 300 to 500 yards away from the former president, hidden in shrubbery with a gun while he played.
The bubble moves through the golf course, so our agents will get there first, clear it. He noticed that the rifle was pointed out, our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if the individual was able to take a shot at our agents, but for sure our agents were able to engage with the subject.
FBI and local law enforcement are posted at a mobile command center outside hole 5 and 6. Right now, they're processing evidence, including the rifle found on the scene. Now, in the bushes, this is where they found AK-47 style rifle.
In the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now.
Now, a witness has been a huge help to police in this investigation who saw 58-year-old Ryan Routh run from the golf course bushes and jump into a black Nissan. The witness gave the plate number to police, who eventually pulled over that suspect on I-95 in Martin County. Vice President Kamala Harris said in a statement yesterday that she is deeply disturbed and will condemn political violence, adding, "We must all do our part to ensure this incident does not lead to any more violence." President Joe Biden commended the Secret Service and their law enforcement partners for keeping the former president safe. Now, as we heard, the acting Secret Service director will be here on the ground in West Palm Beach to do a walkthrough of the site, meet with local law enforcement officers and Secret Service. We're also waiting to hear more details on when that suspect will be in court. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Dana Marie, thank you very much.
Okay, Brooke Singman joins us now with more details about the suspect's past, including run-ins with police. Brooke?
Yeah, guys, and he had a few. So former President Trump is safe following this second assassination attempt at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach yesterday.
Does anyone watching have the actual Twitter account, YouTube account, Instagram account of this guy, Routh? Please, if you do, drop in the comments.
Yesterday, Fox News obtaining this photo showing Ryan Wesley Routh, the suspected gunman, moments after his arrest. A Florida sheriff who was on the scene spoke about the suspect's demeanor when he was taken into custody. Listen.
I was at the scene, and he had a very, very kind of detached, flat facial affect. Like, it wasn't bothering him. Blue lights everywhere, helicopter overhead. He never said, "Hey, what's that about? Why did I get stopped?"
The FBI is now taking the lead on the investigation into the scene and the suspect, who we are learning more about. So he is originally from North Carolina, and he moved to Hawaii in 2017. He does have prior arrests for drug possession, driving without a license, expired inspection, and operating a vehicle without insurance. And guys, back in 2002, he barricaded himself in his roofing company's office during a 3-hour standoff with police after a traffic stop. Ruth's son telling the Daily Mail, quote, "He is not a violent person. He's a hard worker, a great dad. He's a great dude, a nice guy." Meanwhile, we are learning the suspect was interviewed by the New York Times back in 2023 when he volunteered to help Ukraine in the war with Russia. That article saying, quote, "Ryan Ruth, a former construction worker from Greensboro, North Carolina, is seeking recruits from among Afghan soldiers who fled the Taliban." As of this morning, the suspect remains in custody as we are learning new details. Guys.
Yeah, I think he's been arrested at least 8 times. But he's a nice guy. All right.
you, Brooke. Right.
Anytime you're
Great
holed up in a house in your background and that's on your resume, it's unbelievable. And on top of that, he says he's an unemployed, low-income housing builder from Hawaii. Who isn't?
NBC uncovered over 100 criminal cases filed against him in North Carolina. So there's a lot going on. It's interesting. We were just talking to the state attorney, David Ehrenberg, down in Palm Beach County. The feds have taken over the case. But in asking what sort of charges he might be facing, attempted assassination, he said it would be hard to do that because the guy did not actually point the gun at Donald Trump because Donald Trump was not visible. Of course, keep in mind the attempt, the gunman, the guy with the gun who did not shoot it, he didn't shoot it, but he aimed at the agent and the agent then returned fire. The one thing I want to know, and can we put up the graphic that shows the golf course? Where was the guy's car that he hopped in, the black Nissan? According to what we have heard, it was between the guy with the gun was between hole 4 and 5. And that little street right there between 4 and 5 that runs east and west is Summit. So if I had to guess, his car was probably parked there. And it was probably a passerby who saw a guy running, hopped in the car, and this passerby, this Good Samaritan, took a picture of the car with the license plate, gave it to the cops, and that's how we found the guy.
So that's interesting. When you look at that map, if he was standing between hole 4 and 5, Donald Trump was on hole 5. He was on the green. And so he would have been on the opposite end to the far right of the screen. So if this guy's between 4 and 5, he fired off shots 300 to 500 yards away, the police say.
Well, he didn't fire.
Oh, there were 4. They heard 4 popping noises.
Yeah,
well,
they don't know.
Secret Service.
Well, do we know for sure he didn't get a shot off?
It sounded like from the state attorney, he did not fire his gun.
So we think that was Secret Service. When they saw the AR through the fence, then they fired those 4 shots.
AK. Yeah, that's what we know at this time.
I mean, AK,
I'll add another thing. So they keep on talking about, well, they should get more Secret Service and why haven't they adjusted? And they have adjusted. So Mike Waltz was briefed on Thursday because he's with the Assassination One task force. And they said, we with President Biden put presidential level Secret Service force around Harris and Trump.
Yeah, that is.
But yet when we listened to the press conference yesterday from the sheriff, he said, it's not like he is the president. This is not the level he would have if he's president. So when President Biden makes the decision, they having a problem with execution because if he made that decision, then they're not listening to him, which is more of a problem, which goes right back to Mayorkas.
Well, remember RFK Jr. also complained about not having Secret Service protection, and he was given more protection after that. We thought things had changed after the first assassination attempt. We need to know, has it changed?
Right.
Does he need more protection? Because he was president at one point and he's running for president. And this could be catastrophic if someone were successful.
If I had to guess, I bet
it's up to Trump at this point. He's got more money than God. Okay, when he had the assassination attempt 2 months ago, he should have definitely upped his own security for 12 months. That's up to him.
And I don't know this.
Let's keep listening.
And we're going to hear from the Secret Service guys today. If I had to guess, this is probably the level of security he had when he was president at that particular club. Because, you don't really, it's impossible to have a cop everywhere outside. And I didn't realize until yesterday that there's not a solid wall like cinder block. But instead, it's a chain link fence. Just anybody.
That might be changing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Our first guest today
where
said
the guy
that
could go right through it.
Our first guest today said if he was president, there would have been security on the outside. Meanwhile, Speaker Mike Johnson joined us an hour ago. He met with the president 3 hours after the incident. Listen to what he said the president's response was in his demeanor.
We arrived there about the time that President Trump did. We spent about 3 hours with him. He was in very good spirits, as you might expect. That's who he is. He's so resilient. No leader in the history of America that has been so attacked and has remained so strong and so resilient. He's one of a kind. He is not going to stop fighting for the American people. I got a briefing from the acting director of the Secret Service, Ron Rowe, within 90 minutes of the event. I was actually sitting with President Trump when he called. We listened to that in detail. And what I understand happened is that those agents that were with him yesterday saw that barrel of that gun between the bushes on a golf course. I mean, that's a difficult thing to spot. Thankfully, they did. But unlike in Butler, they did not pause. They immediately pulled their weapons and fired. I think that's why this guy, the suspect, the shooter, threw the gun in the bushes and ran. Had they not been there, had they not acted so quickly and so decisively, we might be having a different conversation today.
The one thing about the president, you notice, he does best under pressure. You saw it with the first shooting, second shooting. When things go going crazy around him, that's when he's calmest. If you think about it, maybe the Truth Social or the tweets that he wanted back when things are quiet, like in the middle of the night when things are quiet, when there's stress and there's chaos around him, he has the opposite reaction.
Yeah,
it's like an athlete's reaction.
He immediately put on social media, "I'm safe and well. Nothing will slow me down. I will never surrender. I will always love you for supporting me." And hats off, as you were mentioning, to the witness, the person who took a picture of the car, took a picture of the license plate, notified police. They notified the next county because they knew the guy was driving on I-95 into Martin County. And the Martin County police officers you saw in those pictures pulled him over and they detained him.
Well, and one other thing, and that is the Secret Service. Unlike in Butler, they actually had apparently a drone or drones over the golf course yesterday. Usually when they do something like that, it's tethered. Like when we were at the National Convention in Milwaukee, there was a drone tethered over the arena. So it'll be interesting to see, did that impact anything other than we saw the car drive away?
Well, you know what that means, Steve? You probably see the video leading up to him getting the car rifle out.
Right. Yeah. But the problem is you didn't see the gun.
Right.
Or they would have done something. Hats off. And I hope we learn more about this particular agent. How long have they been on the force of the Secret Service and things like that, because he's just going through, he's looking around, checking the fence line, and there's a guy with a gun and he squeezed off some shots.
So scary. Both
What
of
a
y'all,
story.
you played with President Bush, you've played with Donald
Oh, he's talking about the first shooter? I wasn't paying attention there.
Trump.
Sorry.
You'll have to share those stories coming up.
He was talking about the second shooter. Second shooter took no shots. The Secret Service fired at him, and that was the only exchange.
In the show, but right now,
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
and I mean,
His name is Brian Kilmeade. Jesus, imagine growing up with a name like that. Let's try this one.
Hi guys, it's Selena from Star Glamping Tent.
I used to sell these tents. That's hilarious.
Dana Marie McNichol. She is live from West Palm Beach. Good morning.
Good morning. And as this act.
You've already seen it, bitch.
All right, we begin this final.
I commend the Secret Service for the expert handling of the situation. And the former president is protected from harm and the subject is in custody. An acting head of the Secret Service is in Florida today assessing what happened and determining whether any further adjustments need to be made to ensure the safety of our former president. Let me just say, there is no, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, those of you know me, many of you do, no place in political violence for political violence in America.
Absolutely
None.
correct.
Zero. Never. I've always condemned political violence. I always will in America. In America, we resolve our differences peacefully at the ballot box, not at the end of a gun. America suffered too many times the tragedy of an assassin's bullet. It solves nothing and just tears the country apart. We must do everything we can to prevent it and never give it any oxygen.
Absolutely.
I commend the Secret Service for the expert handling.
Absolutely. You know, as many of you say that he's a fucking windbag, You know, and sometimes he's a little bit weird with the kids and all that stuff. You know, I get it. But he's the actor, he's the sitting president. And you've got to give him respect. Respect is due. The man has not had a lot, like there's been no war in America. No public war. Right? The American dollar isn't exactly as strong as it was when Trump was in office. And it's going to get stronger after November when Trump is back in office. A lot stronger. This is going to happen. I don't care what area of the world you're from, you see how the American dollar is very, very strong. And it's going to get stronger. Let's
yeah, believe them. Any protests over the deaths of these cops?
We're going to go back here. We've already seen these 30 minutes ago. Trump, okay. And 24 long minute video. It's a long form. Let's see what it's got. Absolutely nothing. Oh, there we go.
Driver, take 2 steps to your right. Take 2 steps to your right. Come back. Driver, walk straight back. Keep walking. Keep that low.
That's him. Okay, we're gonna share this with your family, guys. We're gonna play this again. Because this is what we want to see. We want to actually see the arrest of this cocksucker, and here it is right now, in real time.
Take 2 steps to your right. Take 2 steps to your right. Come back. Driver, walk straight back. Keep walking.
And I've got to say hats off to the sheriff's department, okay? What they did here, and I can see it happening in real time. What they did here is they knew they had this guy dead to rights. They didn't just go on and ambush him and hope for a speed chase or anything like that. No, they took their time. They blocked him in. They took him off the road, and they talked to him. This guy's obviously a rookie. Never shouted at a suspect in his life. And they said, give it to the kid. Let the kid do this one. And I commend them for that because they already know every professional officer's got him absolutely gunman dead to rights, about to be a permanent part of the payment, about to take the sidewalk temperature challenge, as it were. And there he is, right there. That's him, guys. There he is. Share this with your family and friends. Florida. It breeds some of the best, doesn't it?
Driver, take 2 steps to your right. Take 2 steps to your right. Come back. Driver, walk straight back. Keep walking.
Very nice. I think if you listen closely, you can hear him say, unhand me. Let's go one more time.
Driver, take 2 steps to your right. Take 2 steps to your right. Come back. Driver, walk straight back. Keep walking.
Gone away. And you know what this also means? The fact that he stopped for the police, the fact that he got out of his car put his hands up in the air, his insanity plea is completely gone out the window. This guy's going to jail for 30 plus years, and he's already 58 years old. So he's going to die in prison. And if not, he's going to leave prison and get out like that guy Blue from Shawshank fucking Redemption. Not knowing which way is up and down and which car is a vehicle or not. I used to be able to go to the bathroom, but now I can't go with even a squirt without asking permission. Or something like that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Shut up. One more time.
Driver, take 2 steps to your right. Take 2 steps to your right. Driver, walk straight back. Keep walking.
He did say it. He said the words "unhand me" as he's getting pulled to the. I'm sorry, here. He says the words "unhand me" as he's getting pulled in. Wow, what a fucking trooper! You're going to jail forever, my dude. Forever. Goodbye.
How can a world peace-loving Trump supporter become a gunman hell-bent on assassinating Donald Trump, the man he once voted for? Former President Donald Trump has survived a second assassination attempt in less than 3 months. The latest incident occurred at Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, Florida, while Trump was playing a round of golf. Reports state that shots were fired at the 45th president, but he emerged unscathed. The FBI has confirmed that Trump is safe and unharmed, and are now actively investigating the event. This attempted assassination follows a similar incident in Pennsylvania just 9 weeks ago, which also targeted the former president. According to law enforcement officials, the alleged shooter had been identified as Ryan Routh, a 58-year-old man with outspoken views on Trump. Routh was seen hiding in the shrubbery, aiming what appeared to be an AK-47 style rifle towards the former president.
Modern businesses function on a foundation of integrated SaaS apps.
2 backpacks believed to belong to Routh were found hanging on a nearby fence with a GoPro camera. County Sheriff Rick Broadshaw released a statement shortly after the incident, praising the Secret Service agent after he immediately engaged with the person holding the rifle. The agent opened fire at the suspect, which caused Routh to flee the scene. However, thanks to coordinated efforts of law enforcement, Routh was captured and soon taken into custody.
All right, 1:30 this afternoon. Call came out.
1:30 this afternoon.
Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time. We were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great.
Reports indicate that Trump remained calm and in good spirits after the attempt on his life. Sources say that he even cracked jokes after the shots were fired. Trump took to X to reassure his supporters and thank law enforcement for their rapid response. In a post, the former president wrote, "I would like to thank everyone for your concern and well wishes. It was certainly an interesting day. Most importantly, I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service, Sheriff Rick Broadshaw and his Office of Brave Dedicated Patriots, and all of the law enforcement for their incredible job done today at Trump International in keeping me, as the 45th President of the United States and the Republican nominee in the upcoming presidential election, safe. The job done was absolutely outstanding. I am very proud to be an American." Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he's spoken to the former president after the gunshots, adding that Trump was in good spirits. He wrote on social media, "Just spoke with President Trump. He is one of the strongest people I've ever known. He is in good spirits and is more resolved than ever to save our country." According to his own social media post, Ryan Routh was initially a supporter of Donald Trump.
He admitted to voting for Trump in the 2016 election, but later grew disillusioned with the president's performance in a scathing online post, which has been removed. While you were my choice in 2016, I and the world hoped that President Trump would be different and better than the candidate. But we were all greatly disappointed, and it seems you are getting worse and evolving. I will be glad when you're gone. Routh professed to stand for world peace and prosperity and wanted to end all war and for all citizens to be happy. He had traveled to Ukraine following Russia's 2022 invasion to help volunteer and provide aid. He had moved to Hawaii in 2018 with his long-term girlfriend, having previously lived in North Carolina. Reports also suggested that the 58-year-old had a criminal record. According to CBS sources, he was charged and convicted of numerous felony offenses, including carrying a concealed weapon and resisting arrest by a police officer in Guilford County in North Carolina between 2002 and 2010. Ruth's son has since come forward and professed that his father is not a violent man, with his worst offense that he knew of was just a couple of traffic tickets. Orrin Ruth said that his father hated Trump, professing that he also doesn't like Trump, but was shocked to hear about the incident. He told the Daily Mail, "He's my dad, and he's had a couple of traffic tickets as far as I know. He's not a violent person." He added, "He's a hard worker and a great dad. He's a great dude, a nice guy, and has worked his whole life." This is not the first time that Donald Trump has been the target of assassination attempt. In July, during a rally in Pennsylvania, another gunman opened fire on the former president while he was delivering a speech.
I want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened. Wait.
Trump sustained an injury to his ear, but 2 days after the shooting, he returned to give a speech at the Republican National Committee, signaling his refusal to be intimidated.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
These incidents raise concerns about the heightened risk political figures face in the current political climate, particularly as Trump remains a polarizing figure in American politics. With his bid for the 2024 presidency well underway, security around Trump is expected to tighten even further as his campaign continues. Meanwhile, current President Joe Biden said that he's relieved the former president was uninjured. In a statement, Biden said, "There is no place for political violence or for any violence ever in our country. The Secret Service has every resource, capability, and protective measure necessary to ensure the former president's continued safety." Despite the fierce political battle between Biden and Trump, both seem to agree that violence has no place in the democratic process. For Donald Trump, this is just another chapter in his long political career filled with controversy and drama. With 2 assassination attempts in less than 3 months, one thing remains clear: he will not be deterred from seeking a return to the White House. Over the next week, former President Donald Trump will continue his active campaign for the 2024 presidential election, with a number of public appearances scheduled across the United States. Among the notable stops are Michigan and his home of New York, where Trump plans to hold his rallies to engage with his supporters. These events come as part of a broader strategy to gain momentum and have him re-elected as the President of the United States. Security measures are expected to be heightened throughout Trump's campaign stops, particularly as he is scheduled to meet with Ronald Rowell, the head of the U.S. Secret Service. Given recent events, ensuring the safety of the former president has become a top priority for law enforcement agencies. Local police, in coordination with federal authorities, are also preparing for potential protests or demonstration that may arise. The gunman Ryan Routh is scheduled to appear in court, is currently awaiting trial for charges related to Trump's assassination attempt.
The fact is, we've come here right now. Millions of us light workers have incarnated on this planet.
There's no law that could have been passed here that would have apparently stopped this guy because he broke a crap ton of gun laws. As a felon, you're not able to buy any gun.
4 minutes away from killing. How has this happened?
If this was a Muslim terrorist or an Arab, people would be asking, where did he get radicalized?
Well, former President Donald Trump has now survived 2 assassination attempts in just 7 weeks. Shockingly, local law enforcement say the reason the latest shooter got within a few hundred yards of Trump is he's not the sitting president.
At this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around him. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible.
This is as unacceptable as it's inexplicable. As president, Trump killed the founder of ISIS and Iran's foremost military commander. He's one of the most famously divisive people on the planet. He's also the Republican nominee for president in a febrile campaign that has just a few weeks left to run. And above all, he came within a hair's breadth of dying in a round of bullets just 65 days ago. What else does a former president, maybe the next president, possibly have to do to justify the highest possible level of security protection? Any would-be assassin would have had no problem working out when and where Trump plays golf, simply by monitoring the movements of his enormous motorcade from Mar-a-Lago to his own golf club where he plays most weekends. It's also the most obvious place for an attack, with Trump exposed in the open air for up to 4 hours at a location surrounded by endless places to hide and many access points from public roads. That's why I would have assumed that after the catastrophic security failure in July, the Secret Service would have made damn sure that nobody could ever get that close to Trump again. But I was wrong. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw says Americans should be proud.
Our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we got the guy. We started out with, we don't know anything, to where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person. So be proud of your law enforcement.
Spare me the plaudits. The gunman was able to hide behind a chain link fence 300 yards from Trump, armed with an assault rifle and a scope. Fortunately, a sharp-eyed agent walking one hole ahead of Trump spotted the rifle sticking out of the bushes and opened fire on him, causing him to flee the scene. That agent deserves great credit for potentially saving Trump's life. But the fact the shooter got so close is another abject security failure by the Secret Service, and frankly, a disgrace. The suspect has been identified as Ryan Wesley Ruth. We know he took an intense interest in the war in Ukraine, attempting to recruit foreign fighters to support Zelensky's forces.
You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, you know, we've got 190 countries around the world, and we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen.
Well, there's now a fatuous tug of war to establish his ideology in the court of public opinion. He reportedly voted Trump in 2016, but later backed Nikki Haley, donated to Democrat campaigns, and parroted the view that this election is an existential threat to democracy. None of that matters, though. Ruth traveled to Trump's golf course with an AK-47 and a GoPro camera to film an attempt on the former president's life. He should never have got anywhere near him. The last director of the Secret Service was forced to resign after the Raleigh assassination attempt fiasco. I believe the new director, Ronald Rowe, should also now be forced to resign. There's too much at stake here. There's been so much talk in this election about democracy, but there's no democracy if the candidates don't survive to face the judgment of voters at the ballot box in November. In a moment, I'll be joined by my first panel, U.S. Air Force veteran and pro-Ukraine YouTuber Jake Bro, the former Navy SEAL, former FBI special agent, host of The Expert Show, Jonathan T. Gilliam, the podcast and radio host, Ben Ferguson. But first, I'm joined by former U.S. Secretary of Defense and CIA Director Leon Panetta. Mr. Panetta, thank you so much for joining me. It's hard to imagine anything more serious in terms of security around current or former presidents of the United States than the fact that Donald Trump has now had 2 attempts on his life in the space of 7 weeks. What is going on here?
Well, there's no question it raises tremendous concern about security. Look, Piers, this is a country that has an awful lot of guns in the hands of a lot of people, some of whom are mentally unstable.
Correct.
And that's a formula for real trouble. And we've already seen that happen, obviously, with former President Trump. And for that reason, having been a chief of staff to the President of the United States, one of the greatest concerns I always had was whether or not we had sufficient protection with the Secret Service wherever the president went. It's pretty clear right now that Trump's life is in danger. And the result of that is that we have to increase the security that's being provided when he does any kind of event or goes anywhere. He's going to need additional security, period.
What is extraordinary to me and to many people, I think, if you look at the two assassination attempts, they both seem to have been in places which would appear to be bleedingly obvious places for potential assassins to be lurking. One on a flat roof, 150 yards in front of a stage where Trump's appearing at a rally, which was unprotected. And now we find that he was lurking, the second shooter, in the bushes at this golf course, the Trump International course in Palm Beach. It was literally where the media go for the best vantage point to take pictures of Trump when he's playing golf. So this is somewhere which, a rudimentary thought process about how to protect Trump when he plays golf. You would think that they would, at the very least, be patrolling the area where the media know they get their best pictures. And yet that's where this guy was hiding.
But that's the thing. He was also armed with a GoPro camera, dude. Like, this is one thing they're forgetting, is that this is the last American election. The reason is because all these people just want to get TikTok famous before they go to jail for the rest of their lives for nothing but clout.
And if it hadn't been for the sharp eyes of a particular agent, then you could well imagine that 5 minutes later, Donald Trump would have walked straight up to that green on the next hole, and he could potentially have been shot dead.
No, there's no question. And the Secret Service agent deserves a tremendous amount of credit for having spotted that individual and actually fired at that person and saving Trump's life without question. But look, we've got to stand back and look at what has been happening in terms of security. These are high-profile people. Their lives are in danger because they are high-profile. It is very important for the Secret Service to be able to provide additional protection, not just for President Trump, but also for Kamala Harris, because this is a dangerous period. And so you cannot allow somebody with a rifle to.
Nobody in their right mind would kill a black electoral at the moment. Nobody. That's just not cool. But killing Trump, for some reason, is cool.
Get on a roof and take a shot at the president. That was a terrible mistake. It was something that was inexcusable. And with regards to the golf course, obviously, if you've got an area that has trees and bushes around it, that area has to be looked at. That area has to be able to be monitored on a constant basis to make sure that there are no threats. So, look, there are a lot of mistakes here. There are a lot of lessons to be learned, but we don't have much time here. We only have a few more months to the election. This is a very dangerous period, and it's going to require that both the Secret Service and law enforcement take much better steps to be able to secure those that are running for office.
I mean, in a way, I think what happened yesterday was even more egregious than the first one, because you say lessons need to be learned, but they've had 7 weeks to learn the lessons of that first fiasco. And I would say that what happened here was even more predictable, in the sense that everybody knows where Trump plays golf at the weekend when he's in Palm Beach. He plays at his own club. Everybody knows that you can get pictures of him from a certain vantage point. None of this is hard to predict. We've already had one attempt in his life where he was literally hit by a bullet in his ear, saved by half an inch by turning his neck. As I said in my opening statement there, the director of Secret Service resigned after the first fiasco. Am I missing something, or should this new director also be resigning?
Well, there's no question that questions need to be asked. There has to be an immediate investigation as to what took place, what kind of precautions were taken. And if they fail to take the kind of precautions that are necessary in this situation, then obviously we've got another head of the Secret Service who failed in his duties to try to provide necessary protection. But look, there's a tremendous responsibility on the Secret Service. Having been there, I've seen the huge responsibility they have. And the result is going to be that we have to provide additional resources, particularly in light of the fact that we've had not one, but two assassination attempts on a candidate for president of the United States. That tells me that Congress and the administration.
Nueva temporada solo con Game Pass. Ve todos los juegos de cada equipo de la NFL. Vive cada jugada al filo de tu asiento. Cada tacleada.
Have got to step up and immediately provide additional resources to both Secret Service and immediately get local law enforcement to also play a role in terms of providing the necessary protection. These candidates are now under siege. We have got to make damn sure that their lives are fully protected because they represent candidates for president of the United States.
But the really concerning part of this, Leon Panetta, is we could have had this exact same conversation the day after the rally shooting. I mean, literally word for word. And what really concerns me is that this is the same candidate, Donald Trump, clearly a massive target because he'd already been shot once. And this has happened 7 weeks later. I mean, you didn't quite want to say the Secret Service director should go, but if you were running the show at the moment and the way that you used to, surely you would think it may be time for new leadership.
Well, the problem right now is that we need the best leadership possible to be able to not only look at what happened, but also determine what steps are going to need to be taken in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And before we start moving people around, before we start making massive changes here, I think it is necessary for the responsible people to sit down and look at what happened and determine what kind of additional resources are going to be needed as these candidates make their way across the country. Look, this is not easy. Let's not kid anybody. This is not easy. You've got candidates running for office. They're going to be at rallies. There are going to be a lot of people attending. It is not an easy job to provide the kind of security we're talking about and put them in a bubble so that they can't even speak to people that they hope will vote for them. So it's a challenge, but the key to that challenge is resources and making damn sure that when they go to an event, steps are taken to look at that area to make sure that it's fully under surveillance and to make sure that key people are in their places so that these candidates are protected. There's a way to do this, but it's going to take time and it's going to take resources and it's going to take tremendous planning.
The problem is we don't really have any of that time because there's only 50 days to the election. Finally,
Exactly.
Mr. Panetta, on a separate note, both sides have been accusing the other of inflaming rhetoric to such a degree that it is encouraging crazy people who have easy access to guns, as you noted earlier, to do this kind of thing. What's your message to everyone, perhaps, in the American political sphere right now?
Well, having been a part of presidential campaigns, having been a part of my own campaign, you know that particularly as you get into the last few weeks of an election, everybody's juices are running. This is high stakes, and it's not going to be easy for people to suddenly be a little more restrained in the way they speak. But you would hope that as a result of this, not only is there an effort to look at how we can provide better security for these candidates, but I also think it's not a bad idea to talk with the candidates to try to at least make them understand that they have to be very careful about using the kind of language that can engender the kind of mentally unstable people to do what we've seen happen in these last few weeks. So they're going to have to exercise some responsibility as well. But I think it's also true that the American people are going to have to recognize that rather than encouraging the kind of rhetoric that we often see in these campaigns, I think it's not a bad idea for the candidates to spend a little more time, instead of calling people names, to basically talk about the issues that are involved in this race.
Yeah, I completely agree. Leon Panetta, thank you very much for joining me.
Good to be with you.
Okay, we're joined by the panel now. I mean, look, this is not easy, Ben Ferguson, this situation for anybody.
Minutes more on the,
but I was staggered
on the second
in the aftermath
Trump
of this news breaking yesterday to see
live on
people
YouTube
queuing
right
up to salute the Secret
We're listening
Service
to
for a
the news.
brilliant job because one agent happened to spot the barrel of this rifle sticking out of a bush. When the truth is, if he hadn't spotted that barrel sticking out of the bush, President Trump would most likely now be dead. This was a spectacular failure, wasn't it, by the Secret Service?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the Secret Service on the ground, they're incredible people. The Secret Service leadership, they're pretty much worthless
how
at this
it actually
point,
unfolded
and
was
they
pretty
should be fired.
tremendous.
The second part here that I think needs to be looked at is Richard Blumenthal last week said that the American people are going to be looked at as be fired. The second,
I want to hear
the
what he
Secret
does.
Service on the ground, they're incredible people. The Secret Service leadership, they're pretty much worthless at this point, and they should be fired. The second part here that I think needs to be looked at is Richard Blumenthal last week said that the American people are going to be shocked when the report comes out about the first assassination attempt and just the total failure.
We already know
Department of Homeland
everything about the
Security
first
and
assassination.
Mayorkas, for example. So he was saying that about the first one. Then he also said in the same interview, he said, I do think things have gotten better since then. In other words, he'd been given assurances from the Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, that they had made adequate changes. They clearly haven't. What does it take for someone to get fired in the Biden administration is the question that we need to be asking. Is it literally a former dead president is the only thing that gets you fired? There should be lots of people fired today. And the men and women on the ground in the Secret Service that are given a small group of people to protect Donald Trump, it's not their fault this is happening. They did do an amazing job on the ground. The problem is with the leadership peers that is sitting there and they're basically saying, we refuse to give adequate protection to Donald Trump. So you have to ask the question then, why? Why is it that you didn't learn from the first assassination attempt? Why is it that there's the ability to have another one? You listen to the sheriff, and I'll say this quickly. The sheriff said, and I'm glad that he was honest. He said, look, once you get to a tree line, the bushes there, like we can't see you. He was being
right now,
honest. We don't have the adequate resources
a lot more
given to a
scary
sitting president for Donald Trump. So therefore, this is Russian roulette. If you want to kill the president, there's a very good chance you're going to have a chance to do it. And so they could fix this. And I disagree with Panetta. He said, it takes a lot of time and effort to do this. No, it doesn't, Piers. I worked with Bush in the Bush campaign, and I saw the Secret Service then up close and personal during the campaign, at campaign events, and also at the White House afterwards. It is not hard for them today to set up a full protection detail for Donald Trump. You want to know how easy it is? Because if he wins the election, and when anybody wins the election, they immediately get that protection immediately on the night of the election. So the idea that they can't do this quickly is a lie to the American people. And I go back to Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat who's not being political on this, when he said it. This is egregious. We spent $7.5 billion to put in 7 electric chargers in this country with the Build Back Better plan of this administration. If we can afford that, you're telling me we can't afford to protect every candidate adequately? This is the question that Congress needs to ask, but they're the ones that are slow here.
Okay.
And this administration needs to fire people.
Let me bring in Jake Bro. I mean,
Trust me.
Jake, bro, whatever side of the political divide you're on,
I will
with
take
this,
over.
for Donald
Or
Trump
they're
to have
gonna
had 2 assassination
hire
attempts in 7
the
weeks
powers that be,
is an absolute disgrace, isn't it?
This person, I think it's going to be.
I absolutely agree. Whatever is not being done by the leaders of the Secret Service, they should be held accountable. I want to make sure that Donald Trump makes it to Election Day and loses on Election Day at the ballot box. If we had a political assassination of one of the major candidates, this would be a disaster for our nation. This would be harmful to our democracy. So, yeah, I would like to see shakeups at the Secret Service. I would like to see President Trump getting whatever protection he needs to enjoy an outing on the weekend going golfing. This is not, I don't think this is an issue that anyone's really debating.
The shooter here, Ryan Ruth, was originally a Trump supporter in 2016. He then became increasingly disillusioned with Trump and then became a full-on anti-Trumper. And a lot of that was driven by his views about Ukraine, and we can come to that a little later. But in terms of what happened here, a lot of people are saying that the rhetoric he was using towards the end on his social media posts and so on was almost directly replicating rhetoric used by Democrat leadership, including that Trump represents a clear and present threat to democracy and has to be stopped and so on. Do you recognize that is a big problem? That in disturbed minds, if they genuinely believe someone is a clear and present threat to democracy and has to be stopped,
because
their minds may tell them this is the way to do it.
I'm doing this research.
There are a lot of mentally ill people here in the United States, and they form opinions based on whatever they see and hear on the internet.
There's so much to unpack.
This is a
here,
problem that both political parties have. There are people in this country who want to kill Kamala Harris. There are people in this country who want to kill Joe Biden. There are people in this country who want to kill Donald Trump. It's the job of law enforcement and the FBI to monitor these people and prevent these assassinations. Ryan Ruth, you can just see videos of the guy. He was a Trump supporter in 2016. In 2020, he claimed he was a Bernie Sanders supporter for some reason, but he used the language of Trump. He said he could never support sleepy Joe Biden. And then in 2020, 2024, he became a never Trumper. And he was a Nikki Haley supporter and a Vivek Ramaswamy supporter. I don't know anyone more anti-Ukraine than Vivek Ramaswamy. So I don't think his opinions on Ukraine, which were more passionate 2 years ago in 2022, had anything to do. The FBI has not revealed the motivation. This guy was also an anti-vaxxer. This guy was also strongly pro-Second Amendment. He had lots of opinions on lots of stuff, as many crazy people do. So the fact that he's being exclusively linked to just his pro-Ukraine opinions, 60% of Americans support military aid to Ukraine. This is a majority popular opinion to have here in the United States. Now, he's a crazy person and there's a war going on in Europe. So he tried going over there. He was spamming on social media in 2022 for people to give him money, $2,500, so he could join the Foreign Legion. He might have just been scamming people, but there's nobody in the pro-Ukraine community that has any association with this guy. He was faking being a recruiter for the International Legion. And there's posts going back to June of this year of actual recruiters with the Foreign Legion saying, this guy's insane. He has nothing to do with us. We're sharing screenshots of our crazy conversations with him. He doesn't represent us. This man is just mentally ill. And Ukraine kicked him out of the country.
Okay, Jonathan T. Gilliam, who's to blame here?
Well, that's an interesting question, Pierce, because you can look at this from many different aspects. Of course, the individual himself is to blame. He took it upon himself to do this horrific act, an attempt to actually take out Donald Trump. You have the rhetoric that you all have been talking about.
Yes, I'll stop him right there. I'll stop him right there. There's no horrendous act. No, he tried and he failed. Okay. He's a fucking failure, loser American. Okay? He's just some idiot with a goddamn AK-47 he painted fucking black to look like a fucking you know. And I'm telling you, man, this is just fun. American politics are very fucking funny.
I believe has gotten so visceral on both sides. But the difference is on the left is that
it pisses me off that the guy with the best accent and the best beard is making an ass of himself already. I've only heard 4 sentences.
The grooming of young children, the grooming of this hate goes to a much deeper level, I believe, than on the right. Typically, the people on the right, they're focused on patriotism. They're focused on the Constitution, typically their rights. And when they feel those things being assaulted, they will say they're going to stand up. Particularly, they just go to social media and make that known.
Can I refer you to yin and yang? Like, I hate how the only real American with a bomb-ass beard is making stupid comments like this. Go ahead, listen.
On the left, what you actually have are people that step out and cause violence. And I believe that's because of the years of rhetoric that has been shown and the lack of authorities stepping out and arresting some of these people on a large scale. When they destroy a city, there's nothing that really particularly happens to them. The politicians get involved in this stuff as well. And as your second guest was saying, you know, there are a lot of liberals that would love to see this election just happen and let it play out the way it should. But there's a tremendous amount of people that I think have been groomed and programmed.
Before you go, guys, please like this video.
On the left that have a hatred that is so deep that they don't even know where it comes from. So we have that issue as well. But then this Secret Service issue is really where I'm actually appalled. And I loved your opening as you talked about this, because I do not understand how a fatal funnel can be allowed to occur numerous times. We don't actually know how many times it's occurred, probably every time Trump has gone out, but where shooters actually go and find that exact location that the Secret Service failed to protect and fully vet the perimeter. And so what you had in Pennsylvania was an individual that got within 100.
And that's why I believe, like, my true belief is that the CIA or whomever is in charge of all these weird assassination attempts has put an all-post bulletin out to a whole bunch of people that are like disgruntled, confused, and part of a strange online militia. And he's saying, you know, I'll give you or your family, go spend 30 years in jail and I'll give your family all they need. Or, you know, there's something up. I'm a big conspirator, but this is as juicy as it gets when it comes to conspiracies. Listen in.
30 yards, which anybody can take an AR-15 and shoot something from 130 yards pretty easily. In this,
any 6-year-old child, thanks to Halo, can do that.
Case, an individual took the same type of gun that the shooter used at the congressional baseball game years ago to shoot Congressman Scalise. It's an SKS Russian AK-47. The same type of gun. I find that strange. And he sets up a complete hide with ballistic panels, with a GoPro to record it 20 feet from the road. And there was no perimeter check. We don't know if he set it up before that or if he actually had the time to go up there and set it up that morning. But local law enforcement as well is to blame, because as happened in Pennsylvania, where you had officers saying that, you know, we told the Secret Service they should have somebody on the roof. At what point does local law enforcement say, hey, we own this property, we're responsible for the perimeter, and so we're going to take it upon ourselves to police this perimeter?
Absolutely.
Here again, you have a Democrat elected sheriff in Palm Beach who makes this ridiculous statement about how Donald Trump is not the elected president,
right,
so he's not going to get this type of security. What type of security is he talking about? All they have to do is walk around the perimeter and keep eyes on the area that's the closest to the road.
That's the point, Jonathan, I find completely baffling, is that people have been asking, well, how did he know Donald Trump was playing golf? Because when Trump's in Florida, almost every weekend, that's where he plays golf. That's where he is for 4 hours in the open air. It's not a secret. Most people who follow any kind of politics at all know that Donald Trump loves golf, and when he's back in Florida, that's where he plays. So this idea this was some great sort of who done it? How did he know? Well, because that's where he is most of the time. Wouldn't have been difficult.
This is the problem.
Well, hold on a second there. Pierce, this is the job of the Secret Service. Your job is to come on and make sure that not only is good content, but that you're informing people. That's your job, or you won't have a job anymore. This is the Secret Service's job. This is local law enforcement's job. And it's a simple job. You look at the area where the president's going to visit and you say, if I was an attacker, where, when, how, and why would I attack?
Yeah.
And then you formulate your defenses based on that. And the biggest one, the first one, is the perimeter. How far out should we have it, and how do we secure it? And that continues to fail. And so, Pierce, this is a very important thing. I have to ask, is this on purpose, or is it incompetence on the
you know what? Here's what I think.
Oh,
I would find it.
Listen,
I've learned over the years to be careful when you completely rule out any theories, because some of them come back to haunt you as being true. I find it completely impossible to believe that the Secret Service would actively want this to happen. But let's see where this all goes. What I would say is that if I, a television presenter, if I could work out in 5 seconds where you should go at that golf course, if you want to have a clean shot at Trump, it would be where there are 3 holes altogether and where the media specifically go to get a clean shot with a camera of it. And that's exactly where this guy went. So, I mean, Ben Ferguson, we kind of all have an agreement here about the Secret Service failings here, which I think are very concerning. I mean, I didn't realize when Trump played golf, they didn't patrol the perimeter until yesterday afternoon. I just assumed, of course, they would, especially since he got shot. But on this separate issue, Ben, Ben, on this separate issue of the rhetoric, yesterday morning, I mean, I've had a problem with the liberal side for years calling Trump Hitler. I think if you constantly tell people that he's the new Hitler, who was the most appalling genocidal monster of the last century, killing 12 million people, perpetrated the Holocaust against the Jews, and so on. If you keep calling someone the new Hitler, then it is going to permeate into unhinged minds. I think it's been...
You're damn right. If you call someone a crackhead for 15 years, they're labeled a crackhead. Bottom line.
Ridiculous. However, however, before I come, just to put it in context, there's no comparison here. But when Donald Trump yesterday morning, before he went to the golf course, just literally posted to his Truth Social media platform, "I hate Taylor Swift." Where you got a presidential candidate just saying, "I hate the biggest pop star in the world," who herself has millions of followers, some of whom may be mentally unstable. How does that help anything either?
Maybe you should look into what Taylor Swift has been saying to the public for the last decade. She is mentally unstable. There are puppets controlling her words, dude. She has sold her soul to the devil, my guy. For fuck's sake.
How does that not potentially, to an easily influenced, deranged mind, not lead a Swiftie to go and want to take action against him? In other words, rhetoric is important. And obviously there's a sliding scale from Hitler to Taylor Swift. I get that. But the principle of inflaming people in a deliberately provocative manner, I think is a really important one for us to right now calmly digest and debate.
Yeah. Look, I think 2 things here. One, when you talk about rhetoric, it's like victim shaming when people are like, well, and I saw this on TV even yesterday on MSNBC, they're like,
Nos preguntamos hace milenios qué es la vida. ¿No es lo que todos queremos saber? ¿Qué es la vida?
like, well, maybe Donald Trump shouldn't go out and play golf. Like maybe this is his fault that he did this. 2 days before that on MSNBC, they were referring to him yet again as Hitler. And so this victim shaming idea, it's like saying, well, she shouldn't have dressed so attractive and then maybe she wouldn't have been raped. It is insane. It is insane that we're even having the conversation, because law enforcement should not choose who they're going to protect based on if there's an R or D by their name. And so that's all I care about right now. Look, if you don't like what he tweeted about or said on Truth Social about Taylor Swift, we can talk about that another day. What I do care about is this. If there have been 2 assassination attempts on Barack Obama's life, and thank the Lord there has not been, But in a 60-day period, are you telling me that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party in Congress wouldn't be firing people left and right?
Yeah.
And they're not firing people. They're not doing it because of politics. And so that is what I care about right now, is the fact that they are deliberately allowing Donald Trump to be out in the open without adequate protection because of politics, Piers. And this is when I go back to what I said earlier. What does it take for Joe Biden to wake up and for Kamala Harris to wake up and say, this is wrong, and we're going to fire people, and we're going to give you full presidential protection between now and Election Day because it's the right thing to do? What does it take to get fired in this administration? Because apparently 2 failures on your political enemy or your political adversary is not enough to get fired. That is insane in America in 2024.
The problem, I want to bring in.
If you would take the word ideology and in where Ben is saying politics, you have your answer why they're not changing it. It's not because of their politics. It's because of their ideology, and that ideology is dangerous. That's why they're not.
I want to bring Jake in because Elon Musk tweeted something to the effect of, I note that there have been no threats against the life of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. He then deleted that tweet because many people leapt on it as what the hell are you doing suggesting that in the first place? Why would you give crazies with your kind of following? I think 20 million people had viewed it before he deleted it. And people have to be very careful here. But in relation to Ben's point, it does seem to be a mark of this administration. They don't hold people accountable and they don't act fast enough. I mean, I'm amazed that we are having the same conversation about another assassination attempt 7 weeks after the last one, about the same candidate. Why didn't Joe Biden or Kamala Harris do something more substantive to ensure that Trump was protected? Because it's not in their interest that Trump is shot or killed. I think it would backfire horribly on the Democrats. Nobody wins.
I think you make a good point. I have no loyalty to any of these people. If you have a failure of leadership, you should be held accountable. I had squadron commanders, group commanders while I was serving in the Air Force who were fired from their positions. Once you fail to lead, people aren't going to follow you. I agree. I am confident that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden want Donald Trump to stay alive until the election, and they want to defeat him at the ballot box. So these attempts on Trump's life are unacceptable as Americans. As Americans, we should be condemning this, any form of political violence. So it's extremely inappropriate for Elon Musk, the owner of the Twitter platform, to, in response, say, why is nobody trying to assassinate Kamala Harris? There's several prominent accounts who immediately jumped to that conclusion. Why is nobody trying to assassinate Kamala Harris? And my answer is there are. There definitely are crazy people in this country that want to do harm to Kamala Harris. And thankfully, they're incompetent. But yeah, it's the job of our law enforcement to make sure that this never happens in this country.
Yeah. Stay with me, panel. I'm joined now by the former Trump advisor and former United States ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton. Ambassador Bolton, thank you very much indeed for joining me. First of all, your reaction to the fact that Donald Trump has now had a second assassination attempt just 7 weeks after he was hit by a bullet at the first one.
Well, look, it's a terrible thing to have happen in the country. We're in very divided circumstances now, and there's no legitimate excuse for anybody to resort to violence to resolve political disputes, if that's what it is. I have to say, again, we don't really know that much about the first attempt in Pennsylvania, but both of these individuals who have no apparent connection with one another, both appear to be mental cases. And I think that goes a long way to raising issues about how we treat people with those kinds of problems, leaving them alone, letting them get in the possession of guns, not having any way to back this kind of business up before they get weapons that they can fire. People don't want to talk about mental illness. They shy away from it. But that appears to be what's at work here. And we should be worried about more copycats, not just against Trump, but against other political leaders, because people who can be set off that way aren't necessarily doing this for political purposes. It's because they've got mental problems.
Do you think this was another big failure by the Secret Service to allow this guy to get as close as he did?
Well, look, I speak as somebody who's under Secret Service protection now because the Iranians are trying to kill me. Fortunately, they haven't succeeded so far. And I was under Secret Service protection when I served as National Security Advisor. With all due respect, the Secret Service succeeded here. According to the reports in the press, which is all I know, they saw this rifle barrel sticking through a chain link fence and opened fire. Can you imagine what would happen if it had been a 10-year-old girl with that rifle sticking through the fence, a toy gun? But this time they didn't wait for permission. They didn't go through bureaucratic steps. They saw a threat and they acted on it. And I think that was exactly the right thing to do. The guy was 500 yards away from Trump when they spotted him. So unless you want to put 500 yards of bubble wrap around Trump everywhere he goes, he wants to go out in open spaces like golf courses, there are risks. Could there be more protection? Yes, there could be. Should there be? Yes, there should. We've now had 2 attempts at Trump, and I think that alone justifies more extensive protection.
I would have thought one attempt at a former president of the United States who's running again and is the Republican nominee would be enough for a wholesale reevaluation of how people in his position are protected. I mean, I'm surprised that you're so supportive of the Secret Service, because that agent didn't do a brilliant job, because clearly that agent did and was very sharp-eyed and very quick thinking. But the truth is that guy should never have been lurking where he was, which is not just a random vantage point. It is where the media go when they want to take photographs of Trump playing golf. It is the best vantage point that you can access at the corner of the course.
All right, that's
where you
my
have
2
3
hours.
consecutive holes which run into each other.
All right, guys, that's my 2 hours on here. I'm going to thank you guys for sticking around. There's a lot more to unpack. Especially in this last video. This guy's very controversial. I love him so much. But we're going to stop there because I got to get some more work done for my long form videos. Be good, guys. Keep a stick on the ice. And remember, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape. Okay? Be good. I love y'all.